I'm the CEO of Coorus Power Proprietary Limited and the Coorus Century Turbine Generator Project, which is a new type of hydroelectric generator working off rotational kinetic energy, drawing upon the power of a vortex, to put it simply. My question is actually to Ross about funding. Now, this project has received some government support in the past, and we're now in the process of pursuing a Commercialisation Australia grant. And the pre-application form was put in, and it was successfully and favourably received. And now we've been asked to put in a full application form. Now, I thought the pre-application form was a lot of work. I happen to be a barrister by profession, and a lot of my associates are professionals, and we spent a lot of time on the pre-application form, and we were quite pleased that it was well received. The full application form comes in, and it probably runs into about 200 pages. I rang up the case manager, and he said, yeah, well, we figure it would take one person full-time 2 weeks to do it. And I said, well, I've made inquiries of a professional association, and they want $15,000 to do this full application, and we're only chasing $200,000. So, you know, it's a lot of money to spend to get the thing through. But I suppose my question is this: from your experience dealing with these sorts of bodies, when you get through the pre-application stage, and you're now invited really by the case manager to make a full application, and I know from my own inquiries that in this Commercialisation Australia grant scenario, some 1,200 applications had already been made and only 3 had been granted. And I asked the case manager, well, is it really worth doing all this work to put in a full application? Well, only 3 have been granted to date. And he said, well, of the 1,200 grant applications, only 15 were actually invited to proceed to the next stage. And of those 15, 3 got a grant. So there's your 20% that you were talking about earlier. But do you have any insight as to the way the grant processes are working at the moment? And really, is it something that I can take heart from, in that I've been invited to go to the full application stage? And is it something that you feel is worth really vigorously pursuing, or do we just look at it philosophically?
Look, it's a really good question, and Commercialisation Australia is an interesting program, and I think it's something that it's good to know that on the first day that it was launched, there were actually people submitting the application forms. So there's a lot of people who want this funding, and because of that, they've actually recently changed the application process. Previously, they had the pre-application form was just to see if you're even in the ballpark. So you can spend 5 or 10 minutes doing it and submit it, and then you were invited to the next stage. Now, because so many people were actually moving on to the next stage, now changed the process where they put in more rigor in assessing the pre-application stage, which is actually really good for you because it ensures that a lot of people, only worthwhile projects get to the second stage, which is where you want to be. What you want to do is you want to eliminate as many ineligible or projects that are unlikely to succeed very early on. So the fact that you were invited to participate in the second stage, it is a significant progress, especially under the new process. Now the question whether or not is it worthwhile to apply for grants or should you spend your time somewhere else, it's a tough one, especially with Commercialisation Australia, because it is a very tough process, and I can certainly understand where the $15,000 for a fee comes from. That's not uncommon in the industry, so they weren't trying to rip you off. It is a lot of money. It is a lot of time that's actually involved, and the sort of information it requires is quite complex. So if you can fund your project without getting this particular grant, you're probably better off doing so, because there are other grants which are less competitive. But if you are in a position where you really need that money, and especially if you specifically need to get guidelines, I assume that this is for proof of concept portion. That's correct.
Yes, they're going to, it's a $200,000 project, and they're actually funding $100,000 on a dollar-for-dollar basis.
Look, if that's the case, if you only want $100,000, find an investor, perhaps apply into this program where you've actually reached the next stage and you can get $2 million. Don't worry, it's probably not a good use of your time given the amount of work involved. If these people are going to charge you $15,000 and you're only going to get $100,000, plus the management involvement, plus you're probably going to have to wait 2 to 3 months. So if you can't get this money somewhere else, that's probably where I would recommend.
I look forward to you hearing.